Fort buzzed with the usual morning chaos. The air smelled faintly of diesel and gunpowder, the metallic scent of rifles and polished boots mingling with the humid Carolina heat. Sergeant Tyler Grant strode across the parade ground, his polished boots clicking with authority, as if the rhythm of his steps demanded attention. He was tall, muscular, and used to being the center of everything. For Tyler, every glance, every smirk, every nod of recognition was a confirmation of his place at the top. Soldiers looked up to him, or at least they feared him, and he liked it that way. Today, however, Tyler's usual sense of superiority was tested in an unexpected way. New recruits had arrived, and the sergeant's sharp eyes scanned the line like a predator assessing its prey. Most of the rookies were what he expected: nervous, awkward, fidgeting with their boots, uniforms, or the straps of their packs. Tyler smirked as he nudged a fellow soldier. "Bet I can rattle that one before lunch," he said, nodding toward a particularly nervous-looking man trying to straighten his oversized jacket. His friend laughed, used to Tyler's antics, but neither of them noticed the one who truly stood out. She was quiet, not timid, not shy, just calm. Her stance was perfectly straight, hands at her sides, eyes scanning the surroundings with a focus that seemed almost unnatural. Tyler noticed immediately. Rookie Emma Cole, slightly smaller than the others, unassuming, her brown hair pulled tightly into regulation braid. There was no nervous energy, no fidgeting. Most soldiers might have overlooked her, dismissed her as just another face in the line, but Tyler didn't overlook anything. His pride, his curiosity, and his competitive streak told him that she was a challenge, or at least she should be. The first instinct came like an impulse he couldn't resist. Tyler's ego demanded a display. He wanted to show the squad that he could handle any rookie, that no one could fluster him, and perhaps, most importantly, that he could get a laugh at someone else's expense. He sauntered toward her, boots crunching on gravel, the other soldiers parting instinctively as though the ground itself respected his authority. "Morning, rookie," he said, loud enough for the squad to hear. He reached out and grabbed her shoulder from behind, expecting the classic startled jump, the nervous gasp, or maybe a squeak of protest. It was almost tradition. The sergeant demonstrates dominance, the rookie trembles, the squad laughs. But she didn't move, not even a twitch. Tyler froze, the surprised laugh dying in his throat. Emma Cole had turned her head slightly, eyes meeting his with a calm, measured gaze. Her expression was neutral, almost bored, but there was a sharpness there, a precision that made him hesitate. She wasn't startled. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't even annoyed. She simply assessed him. The other soldiers were silent. The usual whispers and snickers had disappeared. Tyler's jaw tightened. You okay there?" he asked, his tone forced, trying to recover the bravado that had evaporated in an instant. "I'm fine, Sergeant," she said, voice steady, clear, and firm. Nothing more. Her calmness was unsettling, like she didn't just withstand his move, she understood it before he even made it. Tyler swallowed, trying to mask the first flicker of unease. He had never encountered anyone who didn't flinch at his intimidation tactics, and yet here she was, standing there like a soldier who had faced worse before breakfast. His ego bristled. How dare she remain so composed? How dare she look at him with such steady eyes and no fear? "All right then," he muttered, stepping back slightly, the squad watching every motion. Tyler could feel their curiosity, their unspoken questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? How could she stand there without flinching at someone like Tyler Grant? He glanced at her file again, scanning her name. Emma Cole. Standard bio, nothing remarkable. Transfer trainee, Army records intact, no flags. Nothing indicated why she was so unnervingly confident. Whispers began among the other soldiers, subtle murmurs of "what's with her?" "And she's not like the others." Tyler caught fragments but ignored them, clinging to the notion that she was just a rookie, that he could break her in time. The competitive spark flared. Over the next hour, Tyler shadowed her during gear inspection, watching her every move. Where most rookies struggled with boots or backpacks, she handled her equipment with precision. Every strap aligned, every buckle clicked in place perfectly. She didn't fumble, didn't hesitate, and never once looked to anyone for guidance. Tyler's frustration mounted. He wanted her to make a mistake, wanted to see the slightest sign of imperfection. And yet nothing. By the time the morning briefing started, Tyler was visibly tense. He tried again, this time with words. He tossed a casual, teasing comment her way during roll call, expecting a nervous response or a stumble. Emma simply nodded, acknowledged the remark, and returned her attention to the briefing officer. She moved like she had been through this countless times before, like nothing could rattle her focus. The rest of the squad noticed the subtle shift in dynamics. Tyler, who normally commanded attention, now felt the weight of her presence. The rookie he expected to intimidate had quietly, effortlessly shifted the balance. It was disorienting, frustrating, and humiliating, and yet there was a strange fascination in it. Tyler's mind raced as he replayed the encounter over and over. Who was she? How could someone so small and unassuming appear so untouchable? Pride battled curiosity, and by the time the briefing ended, he knew one thing: he had underestimated her, and he hated it. Later that evening, Tyler sat on the edge of the barracks bunk, replaying the morning in his head. Every angle, every motion, every small detail. Emma Cole wasn't just a rookie. Something about her told him that. The quiet strength, the unshakable calm, the way she had effortlessly handled his grab, it wasn't normal. And in Tyler's world, normal was easy. Anything beyond normal was a challenge, and he had never faced a challenge like this before. Tyler leaned back, exhaling sharply, and muttered to himself, half laughing, half grumbling, "I've got to figure her out, or she's going to make me look like an idiot." As the lights dimmed in the barracks, Emma sat quietly in her bunk across the room. She wasn't unaware of Tyler's attention. She had noticed his attempts, his arrogance, and his growing curiosity, but she didn't react. Not yet. Patience, she thought. They had all the time in the world. Outside, the wind whispered through the pine trees, carrying the faint echoes of a training exercise ending for the day. Fort, in all its disciplined chaos, had just introduced a disruption Tyler Grant couldn't predict. And for the first time, the brash sergeant realized that the rookie he tried to dominate might just be his equal, or worse, his superior. The challenge was set, and neither of them knew how far it would go. The following morning, the fort training grounds were alive with the usual clamor of boots, rifles, and shouted commands. Tyler Grant, still smarting from the previous day's humiliation, moved through the formation with a forced air of confidence. Every glance he cast toward Emma Cole was measured, probing. He wanted to catch her off guard, to test her, and admittedly to reclaim some of the pride he had lost. Tyler's opportunity came during close-quarters combat drills. The squad had been instructed to practice basic restraint techniques and hand-to-hand maneuvers, part of a broader confidence and control exercise designed for rookies. Most soldiers approached the drills with caution, hesitant to make mistakes, but Tyler saw it differently. This was his chance to impress the squad and remind them, and himself, who was in charge. As Emma partnered with another recruit, Tyler maneuvered silently behind her, ready to execute a sudden grab, the kind that typically left rookies flailing. He reached for her shoulder, imagining the startled yelp, the awkward stumble, and the snickers from the others. He grinned. This time, he told himself, he would dominate. What happened next shattered his assumptions entirely. Emma didn't flinch. She didn't even look startled. Instead, with a controlled, almost imperceptible motion, she pivoted her body, seized his wrist, and applied a joint lock with flawless precision. Tyler's arm locked painfully, leaving him momentarily immobilized. He froze, eyes wide, a gasp barely escaping him. The squad went silent, their curiosity and shock hanging in the humid morning air. Tyler struggled, trying to break free, but it was useless. Emma's grip was firm, practiced, and exact. Every ounce of his strength only tightened the lock. His own training, extensive as it was, couldn't counter her technique. For the first time in years, Tyler felt unprepared, vulnerable, exposed. "Relax, Sergeant," Emma said, her voice calm and measured. She didn't speak loudly or mock him. She didn't need to. Her confidence alone was enough to humiliate him completely. "You're trying too hard." Tyler's pride flared, burning hotter than the Carolina sun. His face flushed as he struggled for words. I was just testing," he stammered, attempting to maintain his authority while the squad stared. His usual bravado felt hollow, useless against the effortless competence of the woman he had dismissed as a rookie. The other soldiers whispered among themselves. "Did you see that?" one muttered. "She's not just holding him, she's controlling him." Another added, she's something else." Their eyes were wide with admiration, curiosity, and a touch of fear. Tyler, who had built his reputation on strength and intimidation, realized that this rookie wasn't merely skilled. She was untouchable in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. When Emma finally released him, Tyler stumbled back, rubbing his wrist and struggling to maintain composure. His face was red, not just from exertion but from a surge of anger and humiliation. For the first time, he felt entirely unprepared to deal with someone whose abilities surpassed his expectations. "Watch your technique, Sergeant," Emma said casually, as if nothing had happened. Her tone carried no malice, no arrogance, only an understated authority that made Tyler grit his teeth. She didn't need to assert dominance. It was already implied in her movements, in her precision, in her calm gaze. Tyler's mind raced. Who was this woman? She had arrived at Fort with a clean record, no special commendations, nothing to suggest elite training. And yet here she was, effortlessly besting him in a hand-to-hand exercise. It didn't make sense. Tyler had spent years proving himself in every drill, every sparring session, every exercise, and now, in a matter of seconds, a single move had dismantled his confidence. Determined to understand, Tyler spent the rest of the morning observing her every move. During marching drills, she maintained perfect posture, never missing a beat. During weapons handling exercises, she demonstrated uncanny accuracy and control, even under time pressure. Every small detail, gear adjustment, stance, reaction, was executed flawlessly. Tyler, who had once prided himself on noticing mistakes others overlooked, began to feel inadequate. By mid-afternoon, rumors about Emma began circulating quietly among the squad. Soldiers exchanged curious glances, muttering under their breaths. "She's not just a rookie, she's trained somewhere else," one said. Another added, "Could she be special forces?" Tyler, overhearing snippets of conversation, felt a mixture of irritation and concern. He had to know. He had to find out who she really was. During lunch, Tyler confronted her directly, trying to maintain a semblance of authority. "All right, Cole," he said, forcing a grin. "I need to know, where did you train? Who taught you moves like that?" Emma paused, looked at him, and smiled faintly. "You'll find out soon enough," she replied, not giving any more information. Her calmness only intensified Tyler's frustration. She wasn't afraid, she wasn't intimidated, and she wasn't impressed. She was, in every way, in control. The afternoon drills were even more challenging. Tyler, determined to reclaim some dignity, tried to anticipate her moves, planning attacks and counters in his mind. But every attempt failed. Emma anticipated his tactics effortlessly, sidestepping, redirecting, and controlling every interaction. It wasn't just skill, it was strategy, timing, and instinct honed to perfection. Tyler realized with sinking certainty that this wasn't just natural talent, this was elite, professional-level training. By the end of the day, Tyler's pride was in shreds. For the first time, he experienced the hollow sensation of being outclassed by someone he had dismissed as inexperienced. He couldn't understand how someone so young, so quiet, and so unassuming could dominate a room without raising their voice, without intimidation, without arrogance. That evening, as soldiers filed back into the barracks, Tyler sat on his bunk, nursing his bruised ego. His hands trembled slightly, not from injury, but from a mix of disbelief and frustration. He replayed every movement, every interaction, every subtle shift in Emma's posture. She had been observing him all day, reading his intentions and countering them before he could act. She had stripped away his confidence without effort. Across the room, Emma unpacked her gear calmly, her movements methodical and precise. Tyler caught her glance once and she simply nodded. No condescension, no mockery, only acknowledgement. That simple gesture, the faintest recognition, made Tyler's chest tighten with both respect and frustration. He knew he had just met someone who would challenge him, not just physically, but mentally, strategically, and morally. As night settled over Fort, the sounds of distant drills fading into the darkness, Tyler realized something else. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Emma Cole was a mystery he couldn't solve, a challenge he couldn't ignore, and a force he couldn't underestimate. And for the first time, Tyler Grant understood that this rookie wasn't someone to dominate. She was someone to watch, to respect, and perhaps in time to learn from. The game had begun. And Tyler, for all his ego and experience, had just discovered that the rookie he tried to humiliate might be the most formidable soldier he had ever met. The next morning, the sun rose over Fort in a haze of humidity and gold light. The training grounds were already alive with the clamor of soldiers running drills, the bark of drill sergeants, and the rhythmic clatter of boots on gravel. Tyler Grant arrived early, as always, determined to reclaim some of his pride. But the events of the previous day lingered in his mind like an itch he couldn't scratch. Emma Cole, the quiet, calm rookie, had unsettled him completely. He couldn't understand her composure, her precision, her effortless control, and he hated it. Captain, aware of the growing tension between Tyler and Emma, decided it was time to escalate the training. He paired them for a live tactical exercise, a simulated hostage extraction in a mock urban environment. The exercise was designed to test command, coordination, and quick decision-making. Most soldiers would scramble to follow the orders of the most experienced, loudest, or most assertive teammate. Tyler expected to lead, of course. He had built a reputation on assertiveness, charisma, and intimidation. Emma, however, didn't play by the rules of ego. As the briefing ended, she stood calmly, scanning the room, mapping exits, noting positions of the hostages and the enemy. Tyler smirked, confident that he could dominate the exercise, assert authority, and prove that yesterday's incident had been a fluke. The exercise began. Tyler immediately tried to take command, barking orders at the squad. "Move left, cover the corner, don't stop." His tone was sharp, his confidence unshakable, or so he thought. The squad followed his instructions, but something was off. Movements were slower, reactions slightly delayed, and confusion began to creep in. Emma didn't shout, she didn't push. She stepped forward, her eyes sharp and calculating. "Tyler, stop," she said, her voice quiet but commanding. "You're exposing the team. Follow me." The squad froze, unsure of how to respond, but Tyler, stubborn and prideful, ignored her. "I've got this, rookie," he snapped. Emma moved anyway. With fluid precision, she directed the team, correcting mistakes before they happened, anticipating enemy positions and adjusting strategies on the fly. Her commands were calm, concise, and efficient. She pointed, gestured, and communicated without raising her voice, yet every soldier responded instinctively, executing her instructions with flawless coordination. Tyler's frustration grew with every step. He tried to intervene, but Emma anticipated his movements as well. Whenever he ordered a maneuver, she countered with a solution that neutralized his intentions while maintaining squad safety. His usual tactics, bluster, intimidation, and improvisation, were ineffective. Every move he made was anticipated, countered, and corrected before it could take effect. By mid-exercise, it became painfully clear. Emma wasn't just skilled, she was extraordinary. Her awareness, reflexes, and strategic mind were leagues beyond what Tyler had expected. Even the squad, normally deferential to him, followed her guidance instinctively. Tyler's ego strained under the pressure, and his face reddened with frustration. After a particularly tight simulation where the hostage was nearly captured due to Tyler's miscalculation, Emma grabbed his arm lightly, guiding him to a safer position. "Trust the plan," she said. "You're thinking about yourself instead of the team." Tyler's jaw tightened. "You're just lucky," he muttered, trying to maintain control while simultaneously feeling a surge of awe. But deep down, he knew it wasn't luck. Every decision she made was calculated, every move precise, and every prediction accurate. It was like watching a master at work, someone whose skill he couldn't touch. By the end of the exercise, Captain approached them, observing quietly. "Good work, Cole," he said, nodding. "Tyler learned from her." The words hit Tyler harder than any physical strike ever could. The captain's approval wasn't casual, it was deliberate. Emma had completed the exercise flawlessly, and Tyler had been forced to watch, powerless to correct her or assert dominance. Later in the barracks, Tyler replayed the entire simulation in his mind. Every correction Emma had made, every adjustment, every subtle movement, it was like she was reading his thoughts before he acted. The realization settled in, heavy and uncomfortable. She wasn't just a rookie. She had training he couldn't even imagine. Tyler's obsession with her grew. He began following her during every drill, analyzing her every motion, noting how she moved her feet, how she adjusted her grip, how she anticipated changes in the environment. The more he observed, the more he realized that her skills were beyond anything recorded in her file. There were no commendations, no awards, no flags of recognition, yet her performance was flawless, professional, and instinctual. During downtime, Tyler attempted to engage her. "Cole, you ever trained before this? Some kind of special program?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Emma looked at him, expression neutral. "I've had experience," she said, nothing more. Her brevity only fueled his curiosity. Experience didn't explain the precision, the confidence, or the calm under pressure. Tyler was determined to uncover her secret. That evening, Tyler sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at his boots. Pride and frustration warred inside him. Every instinct told him to dominate, to assert his authority, to reclaim his ego. Yet every observation told him the opposite. He was outclassed, and he knew it. The rookie he had tried to intimidate had not only bested him physically, but had also outmaneuvered him strategically. Across the room, Emma quietly unpacked her gear. She noticed Tyler's tension, his frustration, and his attempts to analyze her. But she didn't intervene. She had been in situations far more dangerous, far more complex, where patience was the ultimate weapon. This wasn't a battle of strength or ego, it was a lesson in humility, and Tyler was only beginning to learn. By the time lights out came, Tyler realized the truth. Emma Cole was a force unlike any he had encountered. Her calm authority, her flawless execution, and her strategic brilliance were undeniable. The realization left him unsettled, frustrated, and in an unspoken way intrigued. He had underestimated her, and that was a mistake he couldn't afford to repeat. As the barracks settled into silence, Tyler lay awake, the events of the day replaying in his mind. Every drill, every counter, every movement Emma had executed perfectly haunted him. He knew he had to adapt or be left behind. But deep down, he also knew something else. He was witnessing a level of skill he had never imagined, and it terrified him. The rookie wasn't just different, she was extraordinary. And Tyler Grant, for all his ego and experience, was about to learn that not every challenge could be met with brute force or bravado. Some required humility, observation, and respect. The lesson had begun. And Tyler, stubborn as he was, had no choice but to follow. The morning air at Fort was thick with humidity, the sun breaking through the tall pine trees in golden shafts. The training ground buzzed with drills, the sounds of rifles, boots, and shouted commands filling the atmosphere. But today wasn't just another exercise. It would become a turning point for Sergeant Tyler Grant. A live fire drill had been set up, designed to test the squad's reaction under pressure. The scenario was simple: secure a simulated urban zone, locate hostages, and neutralize threats. But even the most controlled exercises carry danger, and today, fate decided to test them in a way no one had anticipated. As the drill progressed, a mechanical malfunction occurred with the simulated explosives and pyrotechnics. A small fire erupted near one corner of the mock urban building, sending smoke and debris into the air. Panic flashed in the eyes of several trainees, and instinctive hesitation slowed the squad's response. Tyler, momentarily frozen, realized he wasn't fully prepared to handle the situation. His mind raced, recalling every protocol, every safety measure. But instinct had to take over, and for the first time his instincts faltered. Then came Emma Cole. Without hesitation, she moved through the smoke and chaos, her movements fluid and precise. One hand grabbed a trainee, pulling him clear of falling debris, while the other guided another to safety. Her eyes scanned the environment, calculating every threat, every obstacle, every possible outcome. She didn't shout orders, she didn't panic. She simply acted, and everyone followed her lead. Tyler watched in disbelief. He had seen skill before, but nothing like this. Emma moved like a shadow of authority and precision, every motion deliberate, every decision perfect. Within seconds, the trainees were safe, the fire contained, and the simulation continued smoothly under her control. When the smoke cleared, Captain approached, his face a mix of concern and approval. He had been observing the exercise quietly, allowing Tyler and the squad to experience the chaos before stepping in. Now, he turned to Tyler, whose face was still red from exertion and humiliation. "Tyler," the captain said, his tone firm but not unkind, "it's time you learned the truth." Tyler, still catching his breath, wiped sweat from his brow. "About what?" he asked cautiously, a sense of dread creeping into his chest. Gestured to Emma, who stood calmly among the squad, her posture relaxed, her eyes alert. "Emma Cole isn't a rookie. She's not even a standard army operative. She's Alpha-tier Special Forces." The words hit Tyler like a punch to the gut. Alpha-tier, the elite of the elite, operators beyond Delta, beyond DVGRU. Soldiers whose very names were whispered in respect and awe within the highest echelons of military intelligence. And now she was standing in front of him, quiet, composed, seemingly ordinary, and yet entirely extraordinary. Tyler's mind reeled. Every action, every counter, every precise movement during the last few days suddenly made sense. She hadn't just been skilled, she had been operating at a level far beyond anything Tyler had encountered. His ego crumbled, layer by layer, as the reality sank in. She's what?" Tyler managed, voice cracking slightly with disbelief. Captain nodded. "She's been on classified assignments for years. Covert operations, high-risk extractions, strategic reconnaissance, you name it. She was deployed in missions that even senior officers here haven't seen firsthand. Her records are sealed for a reason." Tyler swallowed hard, feeling a mix of awe, fear, and humiliation. He had tried to dominate, to impress, to assert superiority, and he had failed spectacularly. Against her, every ounce of pride, every assumption of skill had been rendered irrelevant. Emma, noticing Tyler's stunned expression, stepped closer. "Sergeant Grant," she said quietly, "you don't need to worry about what I've done. I'm here to train, not intimidate. Your ego, your pride, they're yours to manage. But if you want to grow, you'll pay attention and learn." Tyler's chest tightened. He wanted to argue, to assert himself, to reclaim some shred of control, but words failed him. He nodded, barely able to speak. I understand," he managed, his voice low. The rest of the squad exchanged glances, realizing the full weight of the revelation. The quiet, unassuming rookie they had initially underestimated was a living legend in her own right. Tyler had experienced just a fraction of her capability, and the lesson had been brutal, but invaluable. Later in the barracks, Tyler replayed the events over and over in his mind. The mechanical malfunction, the chaos, the way Emma had moved, every detail was etched in his memory. He realized that skill wasn't just physical prowess. It was timing, calculation, presence of mind, and an almost intuitive understanding of danger. Emma possessed all of it. For Tyler, the revelation forced introspection. He had spent years priding himself on being the strongest, the fastest, the most confident. But against Emma, he saw that confidence without control was worthless, strength without strategy was futile, and arrogance without understanding was dangerous. That night Tyler couldn't sleep. The image of Emma moving effortlessly through chaos haunted him. He felt small, humbled, and strangely inspired. For the first time, he understood that true skill wasn't about showing off or dominating others. It was about mastery, discipline, and the quiet confidence that came from experience. Emma, meanwhile, quietly prepared her gear for the next day. She had faced far worse than a misfiring training exercise, and yet she treated it with the same calm precision she brought to everything. To her, the day had been routine, a chance to observe, assess, and, if necessary, intervene. For Tyler, it had been nothing short of a revelation. By morning, the squad's dynamic had subtly shifted. Whispers of respect replaced speculation. Tyler, for all his pride, carried a newfound awareness. He knew that every interaction with Emma Cole would challenge him, force him to adapt, and push him beyond his comfort zone. The revelation of her alpha-tier background was not just a shock, it was a lesson, one he would carry throughout every drill, every mission, and every moment in her presence. He had underestimated her, and that mistake had been costly, but it also opened the door to growth. Tyler realized, finally, that the rookie he had tried to humiliate was not just a challenge to his ego, she was a teacher in the most intense, unyielding way possible. And from that moment on, he knew that the only way to survive, and perhaps to earn a fraction of her respect, was to pay attention, learn, and set aside every ounce of arrogance he had carried for years. Emma Cole, alpha-tier operator, had arrived at Fort not just to train, but to transform the soldiers around her. Tyler Grant, stubborn, proud, and skilled as he was, had just become her student. And the lessons had only just begun. Tyler Grant woke before dawn the next day, as he had countless times before. The barracks were silent, the early morning mist curling around the edges of Fort's training grounds. But this morning, unlike any other, his thoughts were consumed not with drills or strategy but with Emma Cole. The rookie, or as he now knew, the alpha-tier operator, haunted his mind. Her calm precision, her flawless execution, and her unwavering authority had left him humbled, frustrated, and oddly captivated. After yesterday's revelation, Tyler's pride felt battered. He was no stranger to being challenged. He had faced tough trainees, rival squads, and punishing exercises before. But Emma's skill was different. She wasn't just strong or fast or clever. She was methodical, calculated, and instinctively superior. And she didn't flaunt it. That combination of quiet power and control unnerved him. Determined not to be left behind, Tyler pushed himself harder than ever in training that morning. He ran extra laps before drills, lifting heavier weights and practicing hand-to-hand combat maneuvers with renewed intensity. Sweat dripped from his brow as he repeated techniques, replaying Emma's flawless movements in his mind, trying desperately to understand, replicate, and even anticipate them. He was exhausted, but the fire inside him wouldn't let him stop. During the morning drills, Emma observed quietly as always. She noticed Tyler's frantic determination, the way he forced every movement, the strain in his posture, and the tension in his eyes. Instead of mocking him, she approached him with measured steps. "Sergeant Grant," she said, her voice calm, carrying authority without arrogance. "You're pushing too hard. Focus on precision, not just strength. Pride can blind you." Tyler froze, frustrated at both the advice and the fact that it was coming from her. "I'm not blind," he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. Emma shook her head slightly. "You are if you think ego and brute force are enough. You've got skill, but skill without control is dangerous. Learn to harness it before you break yourself, or worse, someone else." Her words, simple as they were, hit him harder than any exercise. Tyler realized she was right. He had spent years relying on confidence and muscle, never questioning whether his approach could fail. And now he had seen what failure looked like, not in himself, but in the difference between him and Emma. That afternoon, they were assigned to a close-quarters tactical drill. The task was simple: enter a confined building, locate hostages, and subdue opponents while following proper protocol. Tyler approached it with the same determination he had all morning, pushing forward aggressively, trying to assert control. But Emma intercepted him before he could act recklessly. "Stop," she said firmly. "Take a breath, observe, plan." Tyler's frustration surged. He wanted to argue, to push past her, to show that he could lead even in the face of her skill. But as he hesitated, he realized the situation required clarity, not force. He forced himself to follow her guidance, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, his approach changed. Emma led with calm authority, pointing out blind spots, noting potential hazards, and guiding the team with precise commands. Tyler noticed, for the first time, the subtle way she moved, how she used angles, leverage, and timing to control the environment, rather than trying to overpower it. Every action had purpose, every decision carried weight, and every command was executed flawlessly. By the end of the exercise, Tyler felt a strange mix of exhaustion and admiration. He had survived the drill without humiliation, not because he was stronger or faster, but because he had listened, because he had learned. And for the first time, he understood the value of humility. Later, during downtime, Tyler sought Emma out. He had questions, curiosity gnawing at him like a persistent itch. "Cole, how do you stay so composed? How do you anticipate everything?" His voice was quieter than usual, lacking its normal bravado. Emma looked at him steadily. "Experience, discipline, and focus," she said simply. "I've been in situations where hesitation isn't an option, where mistakes can't be undone. That's why I train every moment to control my mind and body. Pride doesn't help in those moments. It clouds judgment. You've got to learn to control yourself first." Tyler nodded, absorbing her words. It was humbling to hear, but he recognized the truth. His pride, which had fueled his confidence for years, had also been a barrier. He realized he had to temper it, to learn patience, precision, and observation. Only then could he approach her level, or even hope to survive her presence in high-stakes situations. Over the next few days, Tyler's transformation became noticeable. He still trained hard, perhaps harder than ever, but now he trained with focus, not ego. He watched Emma closely, studying her movements, analyzing her decisions, and adjusting his own techniques accordingly. The frustration and humiliation of being outclassed gradually shifted into respect and determination. The squad noticed the change as well. Tyler's sharp commands softened into thoughtful guidance, his movements became more deliberate, and his energy shifted from aggressive dominance to disciplined execution. Even the other trainees were impressed by the subtle change. Tyler Grant, the brash, arrogant sergeant, was learning humility and learning fast. Emma, observing silently, allowed him to grow at his own pace. She didn't push him too hard, didn't lecture him unnecessarily. Instead, she guided through example, demonstrating mastery in every action. Tyler realized that her power didn't come from intimidation or ego. It came from skill, patience, and confidence earned through years of experience. One evening, after a particularly grueling exercise, Tyler approached her quietly. "Cole," he said, voice subdued, I think I get it now. You're not just strong, you're precise. You see everything before it happens." Emma smiled faintly, a small acknowledgement. "Yes, and if you want to improve, you need to see the same. Control your ego, control your reactions, and learn to anticipate. That's how you survive, and that's how you lead." Tyler nodded, feeling a mix of exhaustion, relief, and determination. He knew he had a long way to go, but for the first time he felt like he might actually catch up, at least in understanding. He realized that being humbled by someone else didn't make him weak. It gave him direction, purpose, and a clearer path toward growth. That night Tyler lay awake, reflecting on the past few days. His pride had been shattered, his assumptions challenged, and his ego bruised. Yet for the first time he felt inspired. He understood that true strength wasn't about being the loudest, the fastest, or the most intimidating. It was about discipline, patience, precision, and learning from those who were better. Emma Cole had become not just a rival, but a mentor of sorts, a living example of what mastery looked like. And Tyler knew that if he wanted to survive, excel, and earn respect, he had to shed the last remnants of his arrogance and embrace humility. For Tyler Grant, the lesson was clear. Pride could no longer guide him. Only focus, discipline, and respect for true skill would allow him to grow, and perhaps, one day, stand alongside Emma Cole as an equal. And so, as the night settled over Fort, Tyler slept fitfully but with a purpose, ready to face the next challenge, stronger not just in body, but in mind. The morning was tense and quiet at Fort. The usual clamor of training exercises was replaced by an unusual urgency. Tyler Grant, now more disciplined but still wary, felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on him. He had survived drills, humiliation, and lessons in humility, but nothing could have prepared him for what was coming. Captain called an immediate briefing. Intelligence had identified a domestic extremist cell plotting a potentially deadly attack. Unlike previous simulations, this was real, and the squad was activated for a rapid response operation. The air was electric with tension, every soldier aware that a misstep could have serious consequences. Emma Cole stepped forward, her demeanor calm, her gaze steady. Tyler had learned to respect her authority, but seeing her take command in a real-world scenario was humbling. She was no longer just a rookie or even a trainer. She was the alpha-tier operator she had always been. Her presence alone brought a sense of focus and discipline to the team. Tyler's heart raced as the squad loaded onto tactical vehicles. His body was ready, his mind alert, but uncertainty gnawed at him. All the lessons from training would be tested now, and mistakes would not be tolerated. He glanced at Emma briefly. She gave him a small nod, silent communication that everything was under control. The team approached the target site, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. Tyler checked his gear, adjusted his rifle, and took a deep breath. Every step Emma took was deliberate, leading the squad through reconnaissance, planning, and tactical positioning. As they neared the warehouse, Emma signaled for a halt. "Observe first," she whispered. "Entry points, windows, shadows, assess everything. Remember, speed is important, but precision is critical." Tyler followed her instructions carefully, noting how she scanned every angle, calculated every risk, and predicted enemy positions before moving. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The calm efficiency, the confidence under uncertainty, and the subtle authority she projected left him in awe. The breach began. Tyler moved with purpose but also with caution. Emma led the entry, silent and precise. Every command was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet the squad responded instantly. Tyler realized that she didn't need to shout or assert dominance. Her presence alone dictated action. Inside the warehouse, the situation escalated rapidly. Armed suspects appeared, taking cover behind crates and machinery. Tyler's heart raced, but he remembered Emma's lessons: focus, anticipation, and control. He moved as she directed, covering angles he would have overlooked, reacting to threats before they could fully materialize. Emma neutralized threats with flawless efficiency, her movements fluid and deadly precise. She coordinated the team, assigning roles with minimal words, communicating intent with gestures and eye contact. Tyler found himself relying on her guidance more than his own instincts, but he was okay with that. Trust, he realized, was as important as skill. During a particularly tense moment, Tyler was caught off balance behind a stack of crates, an armed suspect approaching from his blind spot. Emma reacted instantly. In a blur of movement, she pulled him to safety, neutralizing the threat with a single controlled maneuver. Tyler's chest heaved with adrenaline and awe. He had been saved, not by luck, not by chance but by the sheer mastery of her skill. As the team secured the warehouse, Tyler began to appreciate the magnitude of what he had witnessed. Emma wasn't just skilled, she was a force multiplier. Every action she took amplified the squad's effectiveness, ensured safety, and minimized mistakes. Her alpha-tier training wasn't theoretical. It was lethal, precise, and utterly reliable. After the suspects were restrained and the building secured, the team regrouped outside. Tyler, breathing heavily, felt a mixture of relief and exhilaration. He had survived his first real-world mission under Emma's command, and he had learned more in these few hours than he had in years of training alone. Captain approached, nodding toward Tyler. "You held up well," he said, his tone approving but measured. "You followed direction, controlled your reactions, and supported the team. That's what we train for. Learn from her example and you'll be ready for anything." Tyler looked at Emma, who gave him a faint, approving nod. It wasn't prideful or congratulatory. It was acknowledgement of effort, skill, and growth. Tyler realized that recognition from someone of her caliber was far more meaningful than any praise he had received before. Later, back at the barracks, Tyler replayed the mission in his mind. Every movement Emma had made, every decision she had executed flawlessly, every threat she had neutralized. It was as if she had been several steps ahead of reality itself. He realized that his previous confidence, based on ego and experience, had been irrelevant in the face of true mastery. He approached her quietly. "Cole, you saved me back there, and the others. I don't even know how to thank you." His voice was subdued, a mixture of awe and humility. Emma shook her head slightly. "You don't need to thank me. You did well because you followed, because you learned. That's what matters. Pride can get you killed, discipline saves lives. Remember that." Tyler nodded, absorbing her words. For the first time, he truly understood that strength wasn't about being the fastest, the loudest, or the most intimidating. It was about precision, control, and the willingness to learn from those better than you. That night, Tyler lay awake, replaying the warehouse mission over and over. He felt a mix of exhaustion, pride, and a deep, unshakable respect for Emma Cole. She had taught him the most important lesson of all. Survival and success depended not on ego but on humility, focus, and the ability to follow when necessary. By dawn, Tyler was ready to train again. Not to show off, not to dominate, but to learn. Every drill, every exercise, every challenge would now be an opportunity to grow, to observe, and to emulate the quiet, deadly mastery of the alpha-tier operator who had reshaped his understanding of skill, leadership, and respect. Tyler realized something profound. The mission had tested his body, his mind, and his ego, and he had passed, not because he was strong, but because he had learned to follow, trust, and adapt. Emma Cole had not only completed her mission flawlessly, she had transformed the way he saw himself and the world of combat around him. For Tyler Grant, the first real-world test had ended. He had survived, he had grown, and he had gained a new perspective. The rookie he had tried to dominate had become his teacher, his guide, and in many ways the benchmark he aspired to reach. And he knew that more challenges awaited. The battlefield, both in training and reality, would not wait. But now, Tyler was ready, not just to face them, but to grow with them under the guidance of Emma Cole, the alpha-tier operator who had redefined everything he thought he knew about skill, strategy, and leadership. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the dense woodland outside Fort. Tyler Grant, rifle slung over his shoulder, moved with quiet determination. The mission ahead was more complex than any drill or prior operation, a reconnaissance sweep through a wooded corridor known for insurgent activity. It was a simulated exercise but had made it clear, treat it as real. Mistakes could be fatal. Tyler's mind replayed lessons from Emma Cole, the alpha-tier operator who had changed everything he thought he knew about combat and leadership. He was calm, focused, and disciplined, more so than he had ever been. But there was a quiet tension under his skin. The past weeks of training, humility lessons, and real-world experience had sharpened his instincts, yet he knew the unexpected could always strike. Emma led the team at the front, scanning the underbrush with a hawk-like precision. Tyler fell into formation just behind her, following every subtle motion, every signal, every silent command. The forest was alive with sounds, birds calling, leaves rustling, and the faint echo of distant movements. But Emma's calm eyes caught every detail, and Tyler mirrored her focus. As they moved deeper into the corridor, Emma signaled a halt. She crouched slightly, scanning the perimeter. "Something's off," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Stay sharp. Watch angles, shadows, and movements. Don't assume anything is safe." Tyler's pulse quickened, but he held steady. He remembered her words from the warehouse mission: "Pride can get you killed. Observation saves lives. Humility strengthens resolve." Every muscle, every nerve, every sense was alert. Then it happened. A sudden volley of simulated gunfire erupted from the left flank. The team instinctively dropped to the ground as bullets struck nearby trees, sending splinters flying. The ambush had begun. Tyler's training kicked in. He rolled behind cover, assessed angles, and followed Emma's subtle hand signals. She moved with unmatched fluidity, directing team members, identifying threats, and neutralizing opposition with lethal precision. Tyler found himself coordinating with a teammate, covering blind spots and anticipating enemy movements, not from ego, not from instinct alone, but from lessons learned under Emma's guidance. One of the trainees froze under fire, terrified and paralyzed. Tyler immediately went to cover him, keeping low and providing suppressive fire. Emma noticed instantly. With a single gesture, she directed another squad member to flank the threat while simultaneously providing a path for Tyler and the trainee to move safely. Tyler marveled at how seamlessly she orchestrated the chaos, every motion controlled, every decision flawless. The ambush intensified. Multiple threats emerged from concealed positions. Tyler's heart pounded, but he remained steady, trusting Emma's commands and focusing on the principles she had drilled into him. Anticipate, control, support, and communicate. Every previous lesson, from hand-to-hand drills to the warehouse mission, coalesced in a single moment of clarity and survival. As Tyler moved to secure another position, a simulated enemy advanced from behind him, catching him slightly off guard. Emma reacted instantly, dropping to the ground and sweeping the threat with a precise takedown maneuver that left Tyler both astonished and grateful. She had saved him again, not out of sympathy, but out of tactical necessity. "Tyler," she called, voice calm but commanding, "cover that sector now." He reacted without hesitation, moving into position and providing suppressive fire as Emma and the rest of the squad cleared the ambush. Every instinct, every decision, every action was sharper than it had ever been. He realized he wasn't just following her anymore. He was executing lessons, anticipating threats, and contributing meaningfully to the operation. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the ambush was neutralized. Tyler and the squad regrouped, breathing heavily, hearts pounding, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Captain arrived shortly after, nodding with approval. "You handled that well," he said, casting a glance at Tyler. "Especially you. You followed, adapted, and executed under pressure. That's what separates competent soldiers from exceptional ones." Tyler's chest swelled, not with pride, but with a deep, quiet sense of achievement. He had survived, thrived, and learned under the guidance of someone far superior in skill and experience. The lessons Emma had imparted were no longer abstract. They were alive in every movement, every decision, every thought. Later, as the squad debriefed, Tyler approached Emma quietly. "Cole, I can't believe I almost froze back there," he admitted, his voice low. "You saved me again. And the team. I don't know how to, I want to thank you, but words don't feel enough." Emma regarded him calmly, expression neutral but not unkind. "You don't need to thank me," she said. "You learned, that's what matters. You followed, adapted, and executed. That's how you grow. Pride has its place, but today humility kept you alive. Remember that." Tyler nodded slowly, absorbing every word. He realized that survival, skill, and respect weren't won by ego, aggression, or arrogance. They were earned through discipline, observation, and willingness to learn. Emma's alpha-tier mastery wasn't just physical ability. It was a philosophy, a mindset, a command over self and circumstance that transcended typical training. The night fell over the fort woods, the mission concluded but its lessons lingering in Tyler's mind. He felt exhausted but invigorated. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to grow, not just as a soldier, but as a person. The ambush had been brutal, chaotic, and terrifying, yet it had been the crucible that tested everything he had learned under Emma's guidance. In the quiet of the barracks that night, Tyler reflected on the transformation he had. He was no longer just a proud, arrogant sergeant. He was disciplined, focused, and aware. He had faced real danger, executed under pressure, and survived, not alone but by trusting, observing, and learning. Emma, meanwhile, quietly prepared her gear for the next day. Her work was never done. For her, the ambush had been another training opportunity, another chance to reinforce lessons, and another test of both her own mastery and the squad's adaptability. She didn't celebrate, didn't boast. She simply moved with quiet purpose, a living example of control under pressure. Tyler watched her, realizing something profound. The rookie he had once tried to intimidate, humiliate, and dominate had become his teacher, guide, and standard. She had shattered his ego, reshaped his understanding of skill, and instilled in him a level of respect and humility that would endure far beyond this mission. And for the first time, Tyler understood the true meaning of leadership. It wasn't about being the loudest voice, the strongest force, or the most dominant presence. It was about control, precision, discipline, and the willingness to learn from those who had mastered the art of survival and strategy. Emma Cole had taught him all of that, and Tyler Grant knew he had only just begun to absorb the lessons she had to offer. The ambush had ended, but the transformation, the evolution of a soldier, was only beginning. The morning sun cast a pale light over fort, the air crisp and tense with anticipation. This would be the final exercise of the rotation, a full-scale simulated urban assault, testing everything the squad had learned. Unlike previous drills, this operation was designed to replicate a real combat scenario from start to finish. Intelligence gathering, infiltration, hostage extraction, and exfiltration under simulated fire. Tyler Grant tightened his gear, checked his weapon, and took a deep breath. Months of training, humiliation, real-world missions, and relentless lessons from Emma Cole had led to this moment. He was no longer the brash, ego-driven sergeant who had first attempted to dominate the rookie. He had been humbled, disciplined, and transformed. Today, every lesson mattered. Emma, calm and composed as ever, led the squad. Her presence radiated authority, yet there was no arrogance. Tyler followed closely behind, observing, anticipating, and applying what he had learned from her guidance. His movements were precise, his decisions deliberate, his awareness sharp. He felt prepared, not just to survive, but to contribute meaningfully. The squad moved into the simulated urban zone. Buildings loomed like silent sentinels, windows darkened, alleys twisting unpredictably. Emma signaled for the team to split into advance and cover teams. Tyler, positioned in the cover group, scanned every corner, roofline, and potential threat, internalizing the lessons she had drilled into him. "Stay alert," she whispered, eyes scanning the street. "Predict, anticipate, adapt, control your reactions." The first wave of hostile forces emerged from a side alley, simulated gunfire crackling through the streets. Tyler moved instinctively, providing suppressive fire, covering angles and coordinating with teammates. He wasn't reacting blindly. He was thinking, anticipating, and applying strategy. Every movement reflected the discipline and awareness Emma had instilled in him. During the engagement, one of the junior trainees panicked, fumbling with their weapon and exposing a vulnerable flank. Tyler immediately adjusted, covering the trainee and redirecting suppressive fire to neutralize the simulated threat. He felt a rush of calm confidence. This was no longer fear-driven action, it was calculated execution. Emma observed from the front, guiding the squad silently with subtle gestures. Tyler noticed her communication style, nonverbal, efficient, and authoritative, and mirrored it with his team members. He realized that he had grown not just physically or tactically, but as a leader capable of influence through calm, precise actions rather than ego or volume. The team progressed to the building where hostages were held. Entry points were reinforced, obstacles placed deliberately to simulate real-world challenges. Emma signaled a halt, scanning for patterns, predicting threats, and evaluating positions. Tyler crouched beside her, understanding for the first time that leadership wasn't just issuing orders. It was reading the environment, calculating outcomes, and making decisions under pressure. "Tyler," Emma said quietly, "you take the lead on securing the East Corridor. Trust your observations, communicate with your team, and anticipate movement." Tyler nodded, feeling a surge of confidence tempered with awareness. He led the squad down the corridor, checking corners, listening for subtle cues, and predicting enemy positions. Every move was deliberate, every step calculated. He was no longer reacting out of fear or ego, he was executing with purpose. Suddenly, a simulated threat appeared, a team of mock insurgents blocking the hallway. Tyler froze for barely a second, assessing the situation, and then issued commands efficiently, positioning his team strategically. Suppressive fire, flanking maneuvers, and a coordinated breach neutralized the threat flawlessly. He felt a quiet satisfaction, not from dominance but from competence. Emma moved through the main entrance, ensuring the remaining hostages were secured. Her calm, precise movements coordinated with Tyler's squad seamlessly. They operated in tandem, a blend of experience, discipline, and trust. Tyler realized that this was the culmination of everything he had learned: observation, anticipation, humility, and execution under pressure. The operation continued, challenges escalating with simulated explosives, alarms, and shifting enemy positions. Tyler remained focused, communicating efficiently with his team, adjusting strategies, and keeping situational awareness at its peak. Each action reflected months of hard-earned lessons under Emma's guidance. Finally, the mission reached its climax. The last hostages were secured, the squad extracted from the urban zone, and the simulated threats neutralized. Tyler, breathless but composed, regrouped with Emma and the team outside. Captain observed, nodding approvingly. "You've all done exceptionally well," said. "But Tyler, I want to acknowledge your growth. You've transformed. Your focus, discipline, and leadership under pressure are commendable. You've absorbed lessons that many never truly learn." Tyler felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He glanced at Emma, who gave him a faint nod, an acknowledgement not of praise but of respect. In that moment, Tyler understood the depth of her mentorship. She hadn't just guided him through training, she had reshaped his understanding of skill, humility, leadership, and self-awareness. Later, as the squad returned to the barracks, Tyler reflected on the journey he had undertaken. From the day he tried to humiliate a rookie, to the moment he realized Emma Cole was Alpha-tier Special Forces, to surviving real-world missions under her command, he had grown in ways he never anticipated. Pride had once been his driving force. Now, discipline, observation, and respect guided him. Emma, preparing for the next training cycle, glanced at Tyler. "You did well today," she said simply. "Remember, growth is ongoing. There's always more to learn." Tyler smiled, a genuine, humble expression. "I'll remember, and thank you for everything." She nodded, expression neutral but approving. Tyler knew that the gratitude he felt was different from ego-driven acknowledgement. It was a deep respect for someone who had changed the course of his understanding, abilities, and outlook. That evening, Tyler lay in his bunk, replaying every mission, every drill, every lesson. He realized something profound. Mastery wasn't about being the strongest, the fastest, or the most dominant. It was about precision, discipline, humility, and the willingness to learn from those who had achieved it. Emma Cole had demonstrated all of that, and Tyler had absorbed it. The rookie he had once tried to dominate had become his teacher, mentor, and standard. And Tyler Grant, once brash and prideful, had become a soldier capable of reflection, learning, and genuine leadership. By the end of the training cycle, Tyler was no longer the same man. He had faced real-world threats, learned the value of humility, and mastered the art of focus under pressure. Emma had guided him not with arrogance or dominance, but with skill, patience, and quiet authority. And as the sun set over Fort, casting golden light across the training grounds, Tyler understood the final lesson of his journey. True mastery is not shown through ego. It is demonstrated through skill, discipline, and respect. Emma Cole, Alpha Tier Special Forces operator, had taught him that. And Tyler Grant would carry it with him forever.